Welcome in. Today, we're diving into Bear Mountain, the Alpine Crucible.
Oh, yeah.
We've got excerpts. This story doesn't mess around. Global conspiracies, ancient artifacts, and tech that'll make your head spin. But, it also makes you think, which is what we're here for.
Yeah.
So ready to unpack the layers of suspense.
Absolutely.
Because we're going on a crash course through this world, meet its key players, and uncover the forces at work. Think of it as getting a backstage pass to a world on the brink. And one thing that really gripped me right off the bat is how technology takes center stage.
Right.
But not in a way you might expect.
Yeah.
It's not just about cool gadgets. It's about how technology shapes us, changes us, and maybe even controls us. Yeah.
And it feels pretty relevant right now. What did you say?
Absolutely. And what's so fascinating here is that the story doesn't shy away from the ethical dilemmas, right? This tech presents. For example, we see this tension play out with occasion in Megumi's own invention. It's a tool, a weapon, a shield, but it's also a vulnerability.
Right.
A connection to a digital world that might be more dangerous than she realizes.
Definitely.
And then there's Bear Mountain itself. It's more than just a backdrop. It's practically a character, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It's a powerful presence, a force of nature that impacts everything. It's a place of refuge, yeah, but also a battleground, both physically and metaphorically. And we see that reflected in Jack Rennell, the protagonist.
Oh, like,
He seeks solace in the mountain's embrace, trying to outrun his past, but the mountain has other plans.
his past is so intertwined with Bear Mountain. It's like he's drawn back to it. And it forces him to confront not just external threats, but also his own inner demons. It makes you wonder, did he seek out the mountain? Or did the mountain seek him out?
Right. It's like the mountain is testing him, pushing him to his limits.
Yeah.
To see what he's made of. We see this most clearly in that chilling encounter with Gunther on the treacherous slopes. Talk about a test of survival. It's a harsh reminder that the mountain demands respect, even as it offers a strange kind of solace.
And then there's Megumi. She's a tech genius, finds solace in the digital world, but even she can't escape the mountain's pull.
Not at all. It disrupts her carefully constructed digital reality,
Yeah.
forces her to confront something far older, far more powerful than anything she's ever encountered in cyberspace.
And this is where the shards of Yori come in. What did you make of these mysterious artifacts? They're at the very heart of the story, but their true nature remains elusive.
What's captivating is that they represent a power that predates our understanding, a power intrinsically linked to Bear Mountain itself. They are fragments of something ancient, something that binds the universe together, hinting at a balance far more profound than we can grasp.
It's like they hold the key to unlocking the mountain secrets, right?
Yeah.
And everyone wants that key, for better or worse. Speaking of worse, we have to talk about Klaus Claw.
Oh, Klaus Claw. He is the epitome of chilling ambition. He sees humanity as a virus in need of correction, and he believes he has the cure.
Yeah.
His plan, Operation Eclipse, sends shivers down my spine.
The name itself is unsettling, isn't it? What do you make of his choice of words?
It's not just a change he's after, it's eradication. He wants to wipe the slate clean and rebuild the world in his own image.
Yeah.
His vision of a digital utopia is even more disturbing because it hinges on the complete control of humanity. Free will, it seems, has no place in his perfect world.
Exactly. He's not just talking about ruling the world. He's talking about rewriting the very fabric of existence.
Right.
And what's even more terrifying is that he might have the means to do it.
Right.
He's not some lone wolf. He commands the resources of the consortium, a shadowy organization with its fingers in every pie.
Yeah. It's a classic tale of power corrupting, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And what's unsettling is how relatable his anxieties about humanity are. The difference is he's chosen a terrifying solution.
Yeah.
One that eliminates free will and choice. It makes you wonder, in a world grappling with such complex problems, his extreme approach, it might be seductive to some.
Oh, yeah.
It's like he preys on our deepest fears about the world,
Yeah.
Climate change, social unrest, technological overreach, and offers this terrifying solution, total control. But that control comes at a cost, doesn't it?
That's the thing.
The story really makes you grapple with, like, what are we willing to sacrifice
Yeah.
for security, for order?
Yeah.
And it's not just about these big, abstract ideas either.
Right.
What makes this story so compelling is how it takes these global anxieties and brings them to life through the very personal struggles of these characters.
Yeah.
We see Jack, right? His past trauma makes him wary of power, of control, while Megumi, ever the pragmatist, wrestles with the seductive possibilities of technology.
Right.
And then there's Adrian, this young tech whiz. He's torn between his loyalty to Jack and the allure of Claw's vision, this promise of belonging, of purpose. In a world that often feels chaotic and meaningless.
Absolutely.
It's that human element that really makes this story resonate, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And we see this play out beautifully in The Golden Guy. That hidden labyrinth of tiny bars in Tokyo where Jack and the team seek refuge.
Well, yeah.
It's a world unto itself, a place where the lines between reality and fantasy blur.
The Golden Guy becomes this microcosm of a larger conflict. You've got tradition clashing with modernity, technology bumping up against ancient rituals, and this sense that beneath the surface, anything goes.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's there, in that den of intrigue, that they cross paths with that Oyabun, the enigmatic Yakuza boss. I was struck by his perspective. He views Claw's plan as a necessary evil, a brutal reset for a world on the brink.
It's a chillingly pragmatic view. He acknowledges the horror of Claw's plan, but almost sees it as the only way to cleanse a world, riddled with corruption and decay. It makes you question, when faced with these seemingly insurmountable odds, do the ends justify the means? Is there even a right or wrong answer in that kind of scenario?
It's a question that haunts the narrative, especially as we witness this escalating chaos and violence. Speaking of which, the attack on Bear Mountain Ranch is a turning point in the story.
Absolutely.
It shatters the illusion of safety, reminding us that nowhere is truly immune from the reach of Claw's ambition.
Yeah, that scene is brutal.
Oh, I know.
The ranch, this place of peace and sanctuary, is violated, and we see the devastating consequences of his ruthlessness firsthand. It's a reminder that he's not just playing a game of global chess here. He's willing to inflict real pain, to sacrifice innocent lives to achieve his goals.
It's like the moment the gloves come off, and we see the true face of evil.
Yeah.
And it's not just physical violence that he employs. He's a master manipulator, right?
Yeah.
Using technology and this, twisted charisma to prey on people's vulnerabilities, their desires.
Right.
We see this most clearly in his relationship with Adrian.
Oh, absolutely. Adrian is so desperate for approval, for a sense of belonging, that he becomes blind to the true nature of Claw's plan.
It's a classic case of seduction by power, wouldn't you say?
100%. Claw dangles that promise of knowledge, of purpose. And Adrian, blinded by his own insecurities, he takes the bait.
It's a stark reminder that any of us, under the right or wrong circumstances, can be manipulated, can be led astray, and that manipulation isn't always overt or forceful. Sometimes it's subtle, insidious, preying on our deepest fears and desires.
Right.
Which is what makes Claw such a terrifying villain. He understands human nature, and he exploits it ruthlessly.
He understands that seductive allure of power. That way it can warp perception, blind people to the truth. And we see this play out on a grand scale at the Phoenix Summit.
Ah, the Phoenix Summit. A gathering of the world's elite, shaping the future from the shadows. It's a glimpse into a world of unimaginable power and influence where decisions are made that impact the lives of millions, and I was so struck by how easily Claw moved among them. His charisma and ambition, drawing people in like moths to a flame.
He had them eating out of his hand, believing in his twisted vision of the future.
It's a sobering thought, isn't it? That the fate of the world could rest in the hands of a select few, driven by their own agendas, their own desires.
And equipped with the technological means to make their vision a reality. Don't forget that scene where Megumi, disguised in that stunning red dress, infiltrates the summit.
Oh, yeah?
It's like something out of a spy thriller. She's surrounded by the most powerful people in the world, and the fate of humanity rests on her ability to blend in, to gather intel, to remain undetected.
The tension is palpable. And then, just as Claw is about to make his move, unleashing those monstrous creatures on the unsuspecting guests. It's like, bam! The story takes this wild turn, and we're left reeling from the chaos.
What did you think of those creatures? They're unlike anything I've ever encountered in fiction.
They're like something out of a nightmare, a grotesque fusion of technology and primal rage. They represent the darkest aspects of his vision, a world where humanity has been twisted, deformed into something monstrous.
It's like watching a car crash in slow motion. You know it's going to be awful, but you can't tear your eyes away.
It's true.
And amidst the carnage, we see Jack and his team fighting back. Not just for their own survival, but for the very soul of humanity.
It's true, that scene where Jack is battling those creatures in the ballroom.
Oh, I know. Surrounded by chaos and destruction, and he shouts, "We fight! We always fight! Even when the darkness is closing in, we fight! That's what we do! It's who we are!" Such a powerful moment.
Yeah.
Our rallying cry against the forces that seek to control us, to strip us of our humanity.
It's a reminder that even in the darkest of times, we have a choice to surrender to fear and despair or to rise up and fight for what we believe in. And that fight leads them to Dr. Ito's lab, the heart of Claw's bioweapons program, the source of the virus that could wipe out humanity.
Right, the stakes have never been higher.
And what's so fascinating about this scene is how it highlights the interconnectedness of technology and nature.
Right.
We see how Claw is exploiting the mountain itself, its ancient energy, to amplify Leviathan's signal, to extend his control.
It's like he's corrupted the very essence of Bear Mountain, twisting its power to serve his own agenda.
It's a chilling reminder that even the most powerful forces in nature can be manipulated, can be used for good or evil, depending on the intentions of, those who wield them.
Right.
And as they confront Claw in that lab, Leviathan's presence grows stronger, more oppressive. I don't know about you, but that scene where Leviathan traps them in the server room,
Oh, man.
I was on the edge of my seat.
The air crackles with static, the lights are flickering ominously, and you get this overwhelming sense of claustrophobia, of being hunted by something you can't see, can't fight.
It's like the digital world has become a physical reality, a prison of their own making.
Yeah.
And then, just when it seems like all hope is lost, Grizzly shows up.
Talk about an entrance.
I know, right? Grizzly, this steadfast sheriff of Bear Mountain, a man who represents order, justice, suddenly thrust into a conflict that challenges everything he thought he knew about the world.
Right.
It's such a brilliant move on the author's part, bringing Grizzly into the fold at this critical juncture.
Yeah.
He becomes this unlikely ally, a bridge between the familiar world and this digital nightmare that's unfolding.
And his reaction to Leviathan? Priceless.
Oh, I know. He's a man of action, right?
Yeah.
Used to dealing with tangible threats. But this is something else entirely.
This is something else. It's like he's staring into the abyss, and the abyss is staring back.
Yes.
And it shakes him to his core, but it doesn't break him. Instead, it strengthens his resolve.
And thank goodness for that, because they're going to need all the help they can get, especially when they discover the true scope of Claw's plan. This isn't just about control. This is about annihilation.
Right. He wants to wipe the slate clean and rebuild the world in his image. A digital utopia devoid of the messiness, the unpredictability, the sheer beauty of human existence.
It's a chilling vision, and it sets the stage for this final confrontation, this battle for the very soul of humanity. And it all comes to a head at Tokyo Tower, doesn't it? This iconic structure, a symbol of modernity and progress, becomes the stage for this final, desperate battle. What did you make of that choice, using Tokyo Tower as the setting for the climax?
I think it's brilliant, honestly.
Yeah.
It's like the author is saying that even in our most advanced creations, even in the heart of our technological marvels, we're still vulnerable to the forces of chaos, of darkness. It's a reminder that progress isn't linear. It's a fragile thing that can easily be shattered.
And that fragility is palpable in those final chapters. The tension is almost unbearable as Jack and his team infiltrate the tower, knowing they're walking into the lion's den, surrounded by enemies, with Leviathan's digital eyes watching their every move. It's like they're trying to outrun a storm that's already upon them.
Right.
And that storm breaks with terrifying force when Claw unleashes Leviathan on the city. What was your reaction when Tokyo, this vibrant metropolis, descends into chaos? Did you see that coming?
I was on the edge of my seat. It's one thing to read about Claw's plan in the abstract, but to see it unfold on such a massive scale, to witness the city transforming into a digital war zone, it's terrifying.
It's like the author is holding a mirror up to our own anxieties about technology, about the seductive power of the digital world and the very real dangers it poses.
Yeah.
And those dangers are never more apparent than in that scene where Adrian is almost consumed by Leviathan.
Oh, man.
He's so close to becoming another one of Claw's puppets, his humanity nearly extinguished by the allure of the digital hive mind.
It's heartbreaking. You really feel for Adrian in that moment. He's been manipulated, used, and yet there's still that spark of goodness within him, that desperate yearning for connection, for purpose. And seeing him wrestle with Leviathan's control, it's a reminder that even in the darkest of times, even when all hope seems lost, there's always the possibility of redemption.
And it's Grizzly's arrival that tips the scales, doesn't it?
Yeah.
He boosts into that control room, a force of nature armed with his trusty shotgun, and for a moment it feels like the tide is turning. What did you think of Grizzly's role in those final chapters?
Oh, I loved it. He becomes this unlikely hero, a symbol of the real world fighting back against this digital nightmare that's trying to consume it. He's a reminder that sometimes all it takes is courage, determination, and a whole lot of firepower to face down even the most terrifying of enemies.
He reminds us that the qualities we value in the real world, courage, compassion, loyalty, they still have meaning in the digital realm.
Yeah.
And that sometimes those qualities are the most powerful weapons of all. And those qualities are put to the ultimate test in that final confrontation with Claw. Here we have the embodiment of ambition, of technological hubris, transformed into this grotesque mockery of humanity. What images come to mind when you picture Claw in his final form?
It's disturbing, honestly. It's like witnessing a train wreck in slow motion, you know? You see the humanity draining away, replaced by this cold, calculating machine intelligence, and it's both fascinating and repulsive. It's like staring into the abyss of our own technological future and realizing that we might not like what we see.
And yet, even in his monstrous final form, there's this tragic element to Claw's character. He's a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked ambition, of believing that we can control everything, even death itself. And it's that belief that ultimately leads to his downfall. What did you think of Megumi's final act of defiance, wielding the power of the shards to banish Leviathan and defeat Claw?
It's a moment of pure poetic justice, you know?
Yeah.
The very technology that he sought to control, the power he craved, becomes his undoing. And Megumi, the tech genius, right, who was initially seduced by the allure of the digital world, becomes the instrument of his destruction.
It's like the story is reminding us that technology is a tool, and like any tool, it can be used for good or evil. It's up to us, the humans wielding that tool, to decide how it will be used.
Yeah.
And that decision, that responsibility, it's something that lingers long after the final page is turned. The world has been saved, but at a terrible cost. Bear Mountain Ranch, that place of sanctuary, is gone. The digital realm remains a potential threat, and our heroes are left forever changed by the experience.
Exactly. It's a bittersweet victory. The story reminds us that even when we face down our darkest fears, even when we triumph over seemingly insurmountable odds, there are always scars, but it also suggests that those scars, while painful, are also a testament to our resilience, our capacity for growth, and our unwavering hope for a better future.
And that, I think, is a message worth holding on to, especially in a world where technology is evolving at such a rapid pace, where the boundaries between the real and the digital are increasingly blurred. Bear Mountain. The Alpine Crucible is a cautionary tale, yes, but it's also a story about the enduring power of the human spirit, our ability to adapt, to overcome, and to find hope even in the darkest of times. It's a wild ride, and it leaves you thinking about the choices we make, both individually and as a society, and the kind of future we're creating. That's the mark of a truly great story, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It's a story that stays with you, that challenges you, that makes you see the world, and maybe even yourself a little differently. And that's what we're all looking for, isn't it? A story that matters.
Thanks for joining me on this deep dive. It's been a fascinating journey.
The pleasure was all mine. Until next time.